In my previous videos, I always told you it's easy to play around or through Nib, but I never explained how. I need to back that up, right? You're right, and I will do that in this video. I am going to turn this into a video series where I explain what YUBEL can do against certain cards or under certain situations. So if you want to learn to play YUBEL better or you want general knowledge to fight against it better, don't forget to subscribe so you will not miss anything. Welcome to the first part of the YUBEL Academy. There are currently multiple YUBEL versions running around. In this video specifically, I will focus on the post-Phantom of YUBEL deck version. If you want to, I can do a similar video like this just for the post-Legacy of Destruction YUBEL deck. I will just perform the normal Phantom of YUBEL combo I already showcased in my previous videos. That's the reason why I won't go into detail in this video. So, if you want to understand everything about YUBEL and the stuff I do here in the combo, just watch the video and you will understand everything. In this video I will just go over the effects and moments where it matters against Nibiru. We begin by activating Nightmare Throne, adding ourselves one copy of Samsara the Lotus. He is still not the Pirate King, I'm starting to lose hope and I'm disappointed in him, but we don't talk about that. We will normal summon him, activate his effect to special summon Spirit out of the deck. Spirit will then set us one Nightmare Pain. It of course only gets a little bit different once the timing is reached where our opponent can nib us. So we will activate Nightmare Pain to pop Spirit and to add one Infernal Grave. We will then activate both Spirit and Nightmare Throne to float into the other YUBEL forms. Nightmare Throne will get us one Terror Incarnate on the field and the Spirit will of course float into YUBEL. Now we will activate Infernal's effect to special summon itself and to immediately pop the second form. Activating Terror Incarnate to float into the third form, and now, in theory, the opponent could nib us now here. But I don't think it's realistic, especially if you tell your opponent, okay, what does Terror Incarnate do? It special summons the third form. I really do think they all will wait for the third form. If not, you will probably win like anyways, because the opponent wouldn't be that good. So, for that combo and the purpose of it being realistic, I will just pretend like the opponent only nibs once the third form hits the field. And this is the first reasonable, I will go over multiple moments, but this is the first reasonable moment where our opponent could say, alright, just get that off the field. And he will do that now. Nip. And bye bye, everything is gone. Now we activate Infernal Grave to reborn anything, it doesn't really matter. And we will link them off into Cross Sheep. Now we will special summon Phantom of YUBEL using the third form and the second form. Now we will trigger Cross Sheep. And now it's really nice to not fear Nib at all if Nib is already on the field, so you can do whatever you want. Now we special summon Samsara and we link Samsara and Phantom of YUBEL into Yama. And Yama will add us one Shavara, the best Unchained Dog. Now we will link Cross Sheep and Yama into Anguish. And with Anguish we will now link away the nib. Into what do we link? Well, that's actually easy explained. We will link into Muckracker. Now we will activate Muckracker's effect. To reborn, to not reborn the link 3, to reborn Spirit of YUBEL. Important to note, if you want to do that, you need to have any blank card in your hand to discard. It doesn't matter at all what it is. It could even be a YUBEL form, so you can just fuse it away into Phantom. It doesn't really matter, especially if you start and you have a full hand of 5 cards. You will likely have a discard for that. Now we will activate Shavara to pop Spirit. We will activate Spirit as Chainlink 1 and Yama as Chainlink 2. Yama will reborn Soul of Anguish and Spirit will float into the YUBEL in the graveyard. We will link Anguish and Shavara into the Griffin. Now we will fuse the Spirit and the Samsara in the graveyard away for the second Phantom of YUBEL. And just like that, you have a pretty strong board through Nib. You have follow-up in form of Muckracker and protection if you need that. You have the Nightmare Griffin, which is basically a lock. And you have the Phantom of YUBEL. And you have 3 cards in hand, which can be anything. Maybe one Eternal Favorite, maybe one Veiler, one Imperm, one Ash. It can be anything. Now you may wonder why YUBEL is still on the field if we don't have Samsara in the graveyard anymore to special summon it back. Well, first off, don't put YUBEL into the Anima Zone, just put it to the right one. And second of all, we just go into the end phase. I want to show you something. Oh, YUBEL didn't trigger. Why? Well, she didn't trigger because of Nightmare Griffin, since we ourselves are also locked because of Griffin. And in that case, it's actually a benefit for us, since we can keep YUBEL on the field to have follow-up in form of Nightmare Pain or something else, to just have a buddy. It's really good. Okay, now you may say, that's pretty impressive, yeah, but what if your opponent just nipped you wrong? To that I say I will now show you the second moment where I do think it's reasonable to nip YUBEL and what actually changes on the endboard because of that. So let's just say they don't nip you here, which is pretty ballsy considering you can just fuse into Phantom of YUBEL after that, but for the sake of the combo and for the showcase, let's just say they don't nip you here. Now we will perform just a normal combo. We will link away Infernal Grave and Ultimate Nightmare into Cross Sheep. So that should immediately signal to your opponent, hey, I want to special summon Phantom of YUBEL. So I do think that's the second moment where it's reasonable to nip YUBEL. They nip you, everything goes to the graveyard, and you get a token. It doesn't really change that much, to be honest. We will still activate Infernal Grave to special summon basically any monster, it doesn't really matter. Now we will fuse into our first Phantom of YUBEL by shuffling back the third form and the second one. And we will link Phantom of YUBEL and Spirit away into Yama. Yama will then add us, of course, Shavara. After that you just link Yama and the token away into Anguish, and with Anguish you will link with your opponent's nip into Muckracker again. And now you basically have a very similar line. We will activate Muckracker to reborn the Spirit. We discard any card, it doesn't matter what it is, to special summon back the Spirit. Now we will activate Shavara to pop the Spirit. Spirit Chainlink 1 and Yama Chainlink 2. Yama will again revive Anguish, and the Spirit will of course float back into the original YUBEL. And now we can just basically do the same. We can link away Shavara and Anguish into Griffin and fuse into the second Phantom of YUBEL. Just like that you have achieved the same thing, just at a maybe more reasonable moment where your opponent could think that's a good moment to nip, because you would go into Phantom of YUBEL if they don't nip you there. Now it gets a little bit unreasonable because I don't really think it's realistic that any opponent would ever do that, since it's way too risky for them. But let's just assume they find the right spot to nip you. But when exactly is that? Well, definitely not now. You just follow the normal Phantom of YUBEL combo. So if they don't nip you here, they have balls of steel. But let's just say that they don't nip you here. We will just go into Phantom of YUBEL by fusing away the second and the third form. Now they may think, oh shit, oh fuck, I should have nipped, so they get a little bit nervous. We trigger Cross Sheep to reborn anything, it doesn't really matter. And now there is the last choke point I mentioned in my previous video also, where they could nip you, because we actually link away Phantom of YUBEL and Lotus. Now we activate Yama and your opponent might just be the happiest person in the world, since you linked away you're only out to nip, so they will probably nip you as fast and soon as possible, which is now. They nipped you, everything is in the graveyard, but Yama still resolves, and they have to do that here. They couldn't wait for Shavara, since we would have just linked away Cross Sheep and Yama into Appaloosa. So what do we do now? Well, it's simple, we will just use Infernal to reborn the original YUBEL. Now we activate Shavara, popping YUBEL to special summon itself, and YUBEL will then float into the second form, and as Chainlink 2 we will activate Yama again. Yama can reborn anything, and YUBEL will now get the second form in rotation. Now we will perform a link 3 into Anguish, and we will use Anguish effect to link away the opponent's Nibiru. Into Muckracker again. We'll activate Muckracker, reborning the Anguish, discarding any card, and we will link away into Nightmare Griffin, Spirit and Anguish. Now we shuffle back one YUBEL form and either another YUBEL form or one Samsara, it really doesn't matter that much, to go into the second Phantom of YUBEL. So in short, the only thing they accomplished by nipping you in a really unrealistic place, since it's way too risky for them, but it's correct, the only thing they get by doing that is that you don't get any additional YUBEL form on the field, which is alright, GG, okay, good for you. And this is still a good endboard through Nibiru. Keep in mind, only one card did all of that. This deck is so resilient to so many hand traps and cards in general, and I do believe you can play around almost everything. If you have a certain hand trap in mind or a certain card and you want to know, hey, how does YUBEL play around that? Feel free to share it with me in the comment section. And maybe I will consider covering it in one of the future episodes of the YUBEL Academy. See ya!